Hey folks, welcome back to another Listen and Fly video. Hope you're well. Out and about on the Honda Fireblade. I've been riding this bike for the last couple of weeks. I've been getting to know it quite well. And in this video, what I'm going to do is tell you the top 5 things I love about the bike. So if you're interested in the Honda CBR1000R RR Fireblade SP, stick around and stay tuned. Okay, so the mighty Fireblade then, in this latest incarnation, brand new for 2020, an absolute beast of a bike. 214 brake horsepower sports bike, definitely not designed for riding around the leafy lanes of the Buckinghamshire countryside. This is Little Missenden, just in case you're wondering. It's an absolutely beautiful place, as you can see. But anyway, I'm not really a sports bike rider, to be perfectly honest. I love the way they look, I love the technology on them, but I'm not really a track fan or a speed fan. I just like riding on the road. So I've been looking at this bike in that sense. Okay, I completely get the bike is wasted on me, but there are plenty of reviews out there about what the bike's like on track. Go and check those out if you're interested in those sort of credentials. I'm more interested in what's it like for a normal rider. Now, if you haven't seen my first impressions review, do go back and check that out, because I go through what the bike's like to ride, through the specs and all that kind of thing. But in this video, I want to take you through the things that, to me, the things that have stood out since I've been riding this bike. What makes this such a special bike? Okay, so I just jumped off the bike briefly to talk to you about number 5 on my list of the top 5 things I love about the bike, and that is some of these sort of design features of this bike, some of the top tech aero design features that they've incorporated into the machine, and just stuff really from racing technologies. The first thing is this big old ram air duct here. That's new for this particular model. It absolutely gulps in air there, takes it straight away into the airbox underneath the fuel tank. I absolutely love that. The next thing that I love about this is an another aero part, and that is the fins. Fins are all the things on bikes these days, aren't they? Or wings rather, I should say. Well, here it does have wings on the Fireblade, but they are integrated into this rather nice fairing, so it just looks better, I think. But again, on track presumably they have some downforce. Makes no difference to me as a road rider, but I just think that's a lovely feature and it looks great. And then another thing again that's been carried directly over from racing apparently is this swing arm on the back. I think this is exactly the same, I was told, as the swing arm on the BSB bike. So that's number 5 on my list of the top 5 things I love about the Fireblade SP. That's all the carryover tech from the racing world. So to number 4 on my list of the things I love about the bike, and that's something that doesn't crop up very often with sports bike. That is basically the comfort of the bike. I find this bike quite roomy. I'm 5'8", medium-sized fella. I can move around on this seat. You can tuck right down and lean back, or I can sit right upright. And I just find the bike really comfortable for a sports bike. These things are relative. I'm used to riding my Ducati Panigale, and that thing is really uncomfortable, frankly, in comparison. I really think you could go away and tour on this bike and you wouldn't be in an absolute state afterwards. Okay, yeah, the seat's quite hard, but the riding position itself isn't that extreme as sports bikes go. I don't have loads of weight on my wrists. Again, definitely not as much as on the Panigale anyway. So that's number 4 on the list of the top 5 things I love about the Fireblade. That is the comfort of the bike for a sports bike. Okay, on to number 3 then on my top 5 list. And that's something that really isn't so much relevant for a road rider. And it's something that I don't often praise bikes for. What am I talking about? I'm talking about the track-focused electronics on this bike. Now, if you are a track god, this bike is so tailorable, it's incredible. There are so many different options and modes and tweaks that you can make for the way this bike rides. It's just superb. Even traction control, for example, I think it has 9 different levels that you can select. Everything is completely tailorable on this bike. Let's come down here. Sounds epic as well. So if you want to change the engine braking, you can do that. If you want to change how much the wheel will lift up through the anti-wheelie, you can do that. And of course, suspension settings, this one being the SP, it has the semi-active suspension, ABS, you name it, you can change it on this bike. So even though for me as a road rider it's probably irrelevant, you've got to admire the tech on this bike. It is absolutely laden with it. So that makes number 3 on my list of the top 5 things I love about the Fireblade SP. I love these little bicycle lanes that you can just nip down here. Just keeps you out of the way of the oncoming traffic. Okay, on to number 2 on my list of the top 5 things I love about the Fireblade SP then. And that is something that is as relevant to riding on a Sunday afternoon as it is to the track. And that is the handling on this bike. Of course, on Honda's top spec sports bike, you'd expect the handling to be good. But it really is amazing. It's one of those bikes, you just think about where you want it to go, and it goes. The steering geometry setup is lovely on this. It's not too flighty, it doesn't catch you out. As I say, it feels kind of neutral. It doesn't tuck in when you don't expect it to. It doesn't take a lot of manhandling. It just goes where you want it to. That combined with the really sophisticated Odin suspension on the SP model makes for a beautiful handling package. And that's something that does apply on the road as well as on the track. And that makes number 2 on my list of the top 5 things I love about the bike. Okay, on to the important stuff then. What's the top thing on my list? What's the number 1 thing that I love about the CBR1000R RR Fireblade SP? Well, it's not the name, that's for sure. Now what that is something quite simple. And that is, despite the phenomenal specifications of this bike, the 214 brake horsepower, the cost 25 grand-ish, thereabouts. I mean, it's quite an intimidating bike when you see it on paper, but despite all that, it's really, really easy to ride. And that's the top thing I love about this bike. It might be again because of those electronics on the bike, but it just flatters your riding, even though this has got a big hairy engine on it, built for speed, built for the track. Even if you're riding like this in traffic, just around your local area, it flatters your riding. There's nothing difficult about riding this bike. There's nothing intimidating about it. It's one of the easiest bikes to just jump on and ride. It really is. Now don't get me wrong, this is not a bike for beginners. If you're just getting into biking, don't think because I say that you should get on one of these and ride, because that's going to be a recipe for disaster. The bike has the performance of a top supercar, and you wouldn't ride one of those if you just pass your test. And the thing absolutely flies when you want it to. So definitely not a bike for beginners, but yeah, it's not a bike to be scared of. You don't have to put a lot of effort into riding this. It's absolutely superb. So there we have it. That's my top 5 things I love about the Fireblade SP. Hope you enjoyed that video, and if you are interested in this bike, stick around and stay tuned to the channel, because I've got the bike for a few days more yet before it goes back. I'm going to be bringing you my in-depth review, where I talk about all the things I've learnt about the bike during the period that I've had it. Not just the good things, but the bad things too. No bike is perfect, and I'll take you through those pros and cons, as well as showing you what it's like to ride this bike at night, what it's like to ride it on motorways, and all that stuff. So do stick around and stay tuned to the channel. If you haven't done so already, do hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you on the next video. Until then, this has been the Mr. Fly. Cheerio.